Top right, I decided to throw in a 3-bet. Leather ass open the button. Yes, he's been playing very tight, but I still think he's a good enough player that he's going to be open the button relatively wide here. I get 4-bet, which doesn't surprise me that much. He does like to throw in some 4-bets, so four-handed I have to be throwing in some 3-bets. I just decided to throw one in with King 6 suited, and it didn't work, so no big deal. Bottom right, I open Ace King, and Imbolc defends the small blind, and he check calls this flop, which when he does that, I think he has a lot of pocket pairs that he decided that weren't strong enough to 3-bet pre-flop. Things like 8s, 9s, 10s. He sometimes does have something he's slow playing, a jack, or I mean, pocket 6s or a jack would be the only things he's slow playing. And then he has some flush draws. I actually wouldn't have minded go ahead and barreling the turn in the river here. I think I end up checking and giving up, but I don't think he has very many strong hands in his range here where he would be able to call down 3 streets. So, yeah, I think I would have preferred betting, just 3-barreling him in this spot, even though I check and give up. And I decided to just check and give up. I can't really represent very many value hands. I'm being the bet check bet line on that river would basically only represent a flush, and very often I'd be barreling my flush draws. So he ends up having the flush draw, and I definitely would have preferred just 3-barreling that spot because I think he has a lot of those type of hands, and he's gonna have a pretty tough time calling the turn. And even if he has like the 8s or 9s type of hand, it's going to be pretty hard for him to call down 3 streets when I jam the river. Top left, I get 3-bet with Jack 10 suited when I open the button. Decide to go ahead and defend. It's probably a little close, but I think I can get away with it. And he c-bets. I flop a flush draw, Jack high flush draw. And I have a little bit of a decision. I can either raise and just get it in now, and if I do that, I can put in a small raise, or I can jam. If I were to raise, I think I would probably prefer jamming, just because putting in a small raise might inspire him to do something crazy with Ace King or Ace Queen, hands that I really want him. Even though I have a lot of equity versus them, they have a lot of equity versus me, and I prefer that they just fold with quite a bit of money out there. So, but I end up deciding to just go ahead and flat, and then hoping he will barrel a lot of his weaker hands on the turn, and I can jam over a turn bet with a lot more money in the pot and still with a lot of fold equity, because I mean, the hands that he's 2-barreling the turn with, for value, I was probably getting it in with on the flop anyways, unless he improves, obviously. Also, when I do hit my diamond, I think you would expect me a lot of times to have raised the flop with it, so I think I can still get paid off pretty well. And so now he goes ahead and 2-barrels this turn. And I go ahead and jam over the, especially with his sizing. His sizing actually kind of made me think for a minute, because it does give me a cheap price to draw, but I don't expect him to be doing. I think he's going to be wanting to protect whatever he has. If he has a made hand here, most people just see a board like this and think it's scary. And I mean, there are quite a few draws, even though a lot of them it would be very hard for me to have in this spot, but a lot of people just see this board and see a lot of draws and want to bet big to protect their made hand. So I definitely thought that this sizing felt weaker, at least from a random player without any other read. So I go ahead and jam, and he ends up folding. Top right, It's 3-bet king queen offsuit when M bold opens the button again. Did he 3x or min? Oh yeah, he just min raised again. Yeah, and on this left hand, obviously the advantage of this calling the flop and jamming with the turn is he just puts more money in with his air range when he barrels the turn. So yeah, it works especially well if somebody's going to barrel air a lot. And yeah, when I get it in versus his aces, obviously I have less flop when I get it in, or less equity when I get it in on the turn than when I do when I get it on the flop. But that's made up by the times when he does this, and I just get a jam and take down a bigger pot uncontested.